The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Following the publication of an article detailing the experience of civilian pilot Kenneth Arnold, North America had its first case of UFO fever. Hundreds of other sightings would be reported to news publications across the US within just days of Arnold's story hitting the headlines. Within this unprecedented streak of UFO reports, the events of Roswell, New Mexico would cement UFOs into the American psyche. Kenneth Arnold, being one of the first public figures to have first-hand experience with these mysterious objects, became a de facto expert on the subject. His encounter would lead him to be the first point of contact to investigate and confirm reported UFO sightings. One of the most unusual cases Arnold was commissioned to investigate was a sighting that took place over the waters of Puget Sound in the state of Washington. An event that would end tragically in the death of 2 U.S. military service members. This case file joined the theorists as they agree to disagree on what they did and did not see, talking about the MIB in the Maury Island UFO Incident.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing Case File 201. I am Braden.
I am Zell.
I'm Dan.
Did you forget to say the title of the podcast?
Oh, yeah, I did. Maury Island Incident. I knew I was like, that's why I had such a long pause. I was like, huh? Hey, we're back to pre-100 where I couldn't get the intros.
I was going to say, do you think after 201 case files, this would just be fucking dialed up and just sharp?
After 200, it resets back to 1.
We're going back to our
Everyone knows
roots.
this.
Like we're going. Yeah.
Anytime there's a short break, we just forget everything. Just it's gone.
The Maury Island UFO Incident. You know why I did that? I wanted to do some sort of play on like, you are the father.
Maury show.
Yeah. When you see it Friday, the
program.
infographic for this is a picture of Maury,
Ovage.
which actually, it was great because Lady Bray was like, oh, what's going on with Maury? What's the conspiracy behind him? I was like, it's just the play on those eyes. She's like,
Conspiracy is you are the father.
She's like, I thought you did something cool.
Nope, not cool.
Yeah, we're not daytime TV cool, unfortunately.
No.
Debate too.
Anyways, so let's get right into it. Back to 201 Maury Island Incident. This is an interesting case file because it could be, some people say it's the like OG saucer story, OG Men in Black. You know, it's got a lot of the, you know, stuff that we now know is, you know, day-to-day UFO lore originates from this story.
Pre-Roswell.
Yeah, it was like 13 days before
Yeah,
Roswell,
just a couple
which is
weeks
crazy.
before.
This was like the fucking flying saucer heyday.
Yeah, so what better one to start off the next century of podcasts than a classic UFO tale?
I think technically the events of Roswell occurred before this actual case, but this one, but then like the actual reports of Roswell came after this one got reported. But it is one of the first like major UFO cases. Like if you go back to that's really this summer of 1947 was like UFO beginnings, UFO origins. And this one would definitely be rolled up in there. And it has a lot of connections to a lot of the early day case files. There's a couple other ones that it has connections to, and we'll get into those as we go along.
As we do.
So in June of 1947, you had Howard Dahl, who was captaining a boat during the afternoon, and he was out near Maury Island, which is in Puget Sound near Seattle, Washington. Now, I
was actually surprised how you said it, Dan. I thought for sure you're going to screw it up as being an East Coaster. So I was like, I hope Dan screws this one up, but you nailed it.
What do you think he was going to say? Puget Sound?
That's what I thought he was going to say. Because
I've heard it said Puget Sound. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's how all of the West Coasters say it. But I have researching this, have heard Puget and like
Puget Sound.
I've never heard Puget.
Puget.
Never heard that.
Puget Sound.
Puget Sound, man.
So one of the things that Harry Dahl used to do was that he would take his boat out and they would be searching for floating logs in the water that they could salvage, and they would sell to the local mills that lined Tacoma's tide flats, since during that time you still had a large lumber industry in that area, and this was a lucrative way to make a living.
Well, the whole Pacific Northwest is lucrative, like forestry industry. So what I was wondering is he going into the ocean and he's pulling out logs that have like were part of log booms that have gone adrift?
Yeah,
like that's what happens. They lose a couple.
Yeah.
So they're like
rogue logs. Like
I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought those fucking tugboats had those things under wraps. I didn't realize that you could make a living just being like off the like scraps.
Yeah, you didn't know about this? This is when and then as soon as you find it, you put on that sweet fucking plaid jacket and you get out and you run on it really fast. Like those old commercials.
You have to run it back to shore.
Some lady sings.
You run it to shore.
Yeah, that was a legitimate sport during the ESPN outdoorsman great outdoorsman games. As a legitimate sport, log rolling.
Listen, every single small town Canadian city has like some chainsaw competition where that's going on, or some logger competition.
That's how you win the Howard Dahl Cup, buddy.
That's right.
All right. Best log roller gets the fucking trophy.
In Puget Sound.
Yeah, that's how you get it done, bud. So we do it in Puget.
See, that's interesting because I thought that may be the case, but then I was like, is it? Because like right now on the beach, like just down the road from me, a full ash tree has washed ashore. And I was like, oh, is this guy going and getting like just full trees? No, he's actually getting like almost pre-processed logs. So it's like they're ripe for the picking. Well,
yeah, they would send, I'm not sure exactly where, if there's a river here, but like they always send logs down the river in like log jams, and some escape. And then they're like a boating hazard in the bay. You can't see them, especially at night. So you'd be ripping along and all of a sudden, a big 12-inch timber off the hull.
Yeah, I got a 12-inch timber.
Case file 201. Floating
good
logs.
old boys. Never meaning no harm.
I don't think it was his primary source of income. There are some other kind of jobs that he's labeled as. It's like, I think he was part of the what they labeled like the harbor patrol is what he claimed to be a part of.
Is that like the neighborhood watch?
Essentially, yeah. I think him and his boss, like his boss, it's Chrisman.
Chrisman, yeah.
Right. They were both part of this kind of like, it's essentially like a neighborhood watch. Like they would charge people, or they were to approach like residents of the area and basically be like, if you pay us, we'll look out for your beach or your waterfront property, as like patrolmen, kind of security guards for the inlet itself. So that's kind of also what they did. But this day he was out on the water with him, his son.
Sounds like a boat mafia to me.
Yeah,
we'll protect your shores, buddy, huh? We got you covered.
Hey, you want to keep your portion of Puget Sound? Pay us.
Hey, forget about it, man, huh? You don't want a fucking log to roll up on your fucking shore someday, huh, pal? Figure it out.
He was out on the water with his son, and it differs from some accounts where it's either him and his son, their dog, and then two other crewmen who may or may not have been his
two other sons. It differs from account to account about
the
who was on
most
that boat.
amount of reports that I read. I did see the ones that said it may have been his two other sons, but most were that they were just two like work hands that were hired basically
two other crewmen
to just, hey, we need some help. We'll pay you for the day. Come on out.
Right. So now what they saw in the sky that day, Dahl would go on to report in at least two investigations that he would have later, is that he saw 6 objects floating around about 1,000 to 2,000 feet above his ship. And then some people say 1,500 feet, kind of differs. The estimates kind of go, but hover around that area. And he estimated when he observed these objects, he kind of claimed to see that they were made of some type of reflective metal, or that's what it seemed like to him. They were donut shaped, so they were circular, and then they had a hole in the middle,
right through
and
them.
probably about 100, what he estimated 100 feet in diameter, and the center holes would probably be about 25 feet. And then what happened then is something even more impressive, was that one of the ships flying in the formation seemed to either what he described was that this craft fell down or lost altitude as a result of either it was having some kind of what he described as perhaps some type of malfunction, or that's looked like what was going on, kind of a sputtering or a shaking, a shuddering of the ship.
It was not flying smooth like the others. It was fucking swaying. It was off axis. Like, it didn't look right.
And according to some accounts, he may have actually seen or described it colliding with another one of the ships initially. And this is perhaps what he said that caused it, or something was precipitated its loss in altitude and the behavior that it exhibited as it fell from the sky. Now, it reached a certain altitude lower than the others. And then he said it began to emit like a smoke or some type of vapor. And then chunks of the craft or some type of material started to fall from the object, or were physically expelled from the object. And they ended up splashing in the water all around and under the object. And actually a lot of it ended up peppering the deck of his boat itself, like taking off. What he said that it resulted in like a damage to the windshield and then one side of his boat.
So what you're saying is the space shitter was full.
Just evacuate.
I think Zell ate one of these, cooled off.
Yeah, did you guys like lick a piece off the bow of the boat just in case? Superpowers.
Well, are they vampires now? Do we know?
Space vampires.
But like, this is like molten metal, like coming down like slag or
slag. Yeah, they said
shit.
they said what in the descriptions in the accounts. It says when it hits the water, it seems to like steam and sizzle, like it's like molten hot as it hits the cold water.
And some of this, so the material that fell from the object actually resulted in what Dahl reported was the death of the dog. One of the pieces of the object or the material struck his dog on the deck of his boat.
That's enough for an intergalactic war right there, you piece of
Killing
shit.
dags with molten slag from the sky.
And then not only that, another piece of the material actually struck his son in the arm, either burning him or completely breaking his arm, depending on which account you get across the thing.
And there is varying accounts of this, because I read an account that it was his son that was burned by one bit, and one of the deckhands that he had brought on the ship got his arm broken from a piece hitting him. So it's like I had read a slew of accounts, and one of them was that.
Right. So you could say a lot of it, perhaps like some of the inconsistencies that span some of the accounts can probably be chalked up to this case being so old. It's like 60 years old, so it's gone.
Let's add one in there. His son lost his eye. The molten went right through his eye. He wore a patch for the rest of his life.
Sure.
Pirates.
I'm adding one more.
There you go.
That makes sense.
It's added into the lore. It's canon now.
I buy it.
I hope one day I hear this written down there. Some accounts state he lost his eye.
And Now, from the debris that landed on the ship, Dahl said they recovered a few pieces of it, and he said that he found it to be like a pale white in color and and very lightweight for the mass, or lightweight for the amount or the size of the chunks that they got. And that's what he described recovering from not only his boat, but they would go on to recover pieces of, or what they believed to be, that material that was expelled from the craft on the beach near where they had been that day.
How much of this material do we know? Like, did they give us an estimate of it?
They had at least enough to fill a box. I think it was like a small box, probably.
Was it heavy? Like, because in my head, it sounds like one of these ships were either malfunctioning or damaged, and they had to like cut some weight to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah,
right?
Isn't that a thing in like in aviation? If like you had something's wrong with your plane, can you dump fuel? Is that a thing? If you're like going down to try and like last ditch effort, like dump fuel to try and coast your way farther or something?
And you can dump the fuel tanks, like they do that sometimes to go faster. But
that's what I mean. If you're trying to coast or something, trying to like glide a little farther or try and get away from there, you could dump fuel and maybe you could glide a little bit farther for safety or something. Maybe,
possibly.
So maybe this is some element like 115 or whatever.
It's about to go. Past the point of no return. It's about to go full chain reaction, nuclear explosion, and they just dump it in the ocean on this guy's son and dog.
Now, when I read this piqued my interest a lot, because I don't know if it was cosmic channels 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, but we had a caller who called in with a UFO sighting and that claimed that like one of these UFOs left slag like all over a road.
Right.
And they sent us in pictures. And the pictures were super interesting. And they had posted pictures to our Facebook group. So then when I read this, I was like, oh shit, I wonder if this is similar to the account that whatever this person had seen and taken pictures of that listened to our show. And this was obviously happened more recently. I'm going to say it happened from 2000 on. I think that's a pretty safe bet. You'd have to go back and find the specific cosmic channels call. But this struck me as interesting that we, like, after hearing someone's firsthand account and now reading about this slag metal falling, I'm like, this isn't unheard of. This isn't like, this maybe was the precedent, but we've heard this now again, more recently.
Yeah.
After the craft actually expelled the material of whatever, and some of it was recovered by Dahl, Dahl said that the craft went on to rejoin the formation of the other craft, and then they took off up above the clouds, and then he lost sight of them after they reached that point. Now, according to some accounts, Dahl went to his boat and then he tried to radio for help, but the radio did not function.
It's a pretty standard UFO issue.
Disrupting radios.
Some UFO accounts. And then he said that they sailed back to their dock and they gave their dog a burial at sea
so
on the way back.
Davy Jones's locker.
Yeah.
You're a pirate dog.
Why would they drop why'd they get rid of the dog, man?
They're pirates.
Hear me out.
Send them to fucking Davy Jones's locker. That's a burial at sea.
Here's the thing.
Fair.
Maybe it's one, they're seamen, right? Like, it's not like they're
grow up.
They're boatmen.
It was a joke. It is a funny word, though. I do agree. They're seamen, so they're out there, right? They're their lover,
we
their
have a
lady
fellow seaman.
is the sea.
You gotta ask them.
I mean, I'd say they're like boatmen. Like
Boatman.
Their life, their lovers, their ladies
Shipman.
is the sea. Boatman.
Sure.
And imagine their dog like gets hit by a big enough, hot enough piece of slag to kill it. This dog's mangled. And if you're a boatman, you're on the ocean all the time. Like, I feel like that would be a fitting, like, if I were a boatman and I died on the boat, it's like, like, what do you want to happen when you die? I'd be like, put me in the sea.
Dump
I want to
me over
be
the
in the
edge.
sea.
Yeah, old Sparky always wanted to go.
Right? And especially if the dog lived its life on the boat, like, you know what I mean?
Or you
To
could
me,
save the mangled dog and be like, something fucking fell from space and killed my dog. Can somebody explain this to me? This
you know
isn't
what, though?
normal.
You're not
Here's some
thinking, though.
evidence.
You're not thinking straight. Like, if you had real time, like, you'd probably be so upset. Your last thoughts are like, no, like, I'm going to save this dog as evidence. You're like, that's my fucking dog that I loved.
Dude, or the dog is so mangled by the slag, it's like melted in half. You just gotta you don't want to look at it anymore. Just sorry, dog.
Yeah,
sorry,
you're
my
just like,
friend.
sorry, buddy.
I don't know. I feel like the first thing you'd want to do is get to shore because you're like, are we going to sink? One of these
Well,
fucking
that's funny
molten
enough.
rocks
That's
put a
one of the
hole in
things they
boat?
did. They actually beached their boat, getting the fuck out of there. They're like, holy, like full
Put the
steam
dog
ahead.
funeral on hold.
Yeah. He's like, he turns to his son. He's like, throw that fucking dog overboard. We got to lose some weight. Get us out of here.
Start paddling.
Yeah.
So all 4 of the witnesses would go on to report the event to local police, saying that some craft had spilled out some type of material out into the ocean, and they reported on what they had seen. So you have a firsthand account. You have what appears to be physical evidence of a UFO. And so you would think that would be good enough already, but the story gets even better from this one. So Dahl took his son to the hospital for treatment, if you're worried about the son. And then he told his boss, Fred Chrisman, we mentioned before, what had happened. Now, Chrisman reported that he didn't really believe Dahl's story.
He's like, you're always late for work, motherfucker.
Do you want to know a nice
taking days off?
You want to know interesting fucking factoid about Chrisman?
What?
Chrisman was also called in as a witness for the JFK trial.
Yes.
He was supposedly, according to Jim Garrison, he was one of the guys that was portrayed in Oliver Stone's JFK movie. He was one of the prosecutors. He was possibly put forward as one of the fucking, the 3 tramps, one of the shooters from the grassy knoll.
Chrisman actually has an interesting, he has an interesting piece of history. We could probably do some bonus content on Chrisman.
There's some bits of biographical information about Chrisman that are kind of interesting.
Super bizarre, man.
Not only that, but there are a couple of ones we could probably get into.
It gets weirder than that.
We could go down some rabbit holes with Chrisman, but they don't tie back into this case at all.
No.
They tie into other cases, and maybe we should do an after hours on the guy, but interesting fella.
To try and verify what Dahl had told him, Chrisman went back to the actual island and the area where Dahl said that he had seen these craft and where some of the debris had peppered onto the beach. And then he said that while he was actually gathering some rocks, which seemed to match the description of what Dahl said he had seen drop from the craft, he reported that he actually sighted one of the ships that matched the description of what Dahl had told him, this donut-shaped craft made of a reflective material. And then he felt as this ship was watching him, and then as he was watching the craft and he was collecting this material, the craft took off back up into the clouds and then disappeared.
So you think they maybe were coming to like cover their tracks, maybe?
Perhaps.
They're trying to recover some of that precious fuel they dumped. Maybe that shit was expensive.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
I mean, I do have a working theory on what I think Chrisman saw that day.
Were they thinning the veil?
Well, yeah, a little bit.
Where did the UFOs come from?
I don't want to get into it. Well, maybe I should.
You're
Tough
committed
because it's also tied into my. It's too late. I'm already into it.
You're committed.
All right. Okay. What I think it possibly was, where it's like, if this is some sort of, maybe this is some sort of human alien working relationship that we do hear about in later years, and the crash one was human operated, and this is them just coming back and they're monitoring the area, right? So they know where they drop stuff, they know where they left evidence, and they're just keeping tabs on the area to make sure there isn't salvagers like this, because whatever was dropped, like you said, was some sort of precious metal. Maybe it was element 115, whatever propels their ship, they lost some, or it's some unique type of metal that they don't want in the hands of someone else because it is so rare on Earth or doesn't exist at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so covering their tracks.
Yes.
Try and get rid of whatever they dropped there. I like that.
So according to some historians and accounts, the next morning or several days later, depending on where you read it, a mysterious man appeared and contacted Dahl and seemed to have something to say to him on the subject of this craft. It knew what he had saw, or they knew.
So like some type of authority figure, like someone like looking to investigate kind of thing.
Indeed.
Somebody driving an all black Buick potentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Wearing red lipstick and doing magic tricks.
Perhaps dressed in dark colored clothes.
The cap.
Taking things you thought you saw you did not see.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And
Fear him, jeer him. Don't want to get near him.
I mean, luckily for Mr. Dahl, the good guy's dressed in black.
Remember that.
Remember that.
This mysterious man in black, he's quoted as saying, "I know a great deal more about this experience of yours than you will want to believe," which is a super fucking weird thing to say, because to me, that makes me think that maybe they lost some time out on the boat and they didn't even realize it.
Well, I think luckily for us too, they actually had this conversation out in public. And I'm pretty sure that they had somebody, they had this conversation actually at a local breakfast, spot in this city. And we had somebody actually overhear this entire conversation.
Mr. Dahl, I want to thank you for meeting me today.
Yeah, no problem. Are you wearing lipstick?
Hey, listen, don't worry about that, okay? Now, what do you remember that happened? What do you remember?
Morning, sweethearts. Can I get you guys some coffees?
Yeah, listen. Yes, get us some coffees. Black. Just bring some cream and sugar, and then just leave us alone, okay?
Well, of course, honey. Don't mind me.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dahl, about
Sweetie,
yesterday.
I'm so sorry. Did you guys want sugar in your coffees?
But black is fine. Just there's cream and sugar on the table.
Of course. My apologies. You guys are sweet enough. Don't worry about it, honey. I'm out of here.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Mr. Dahl. Now back to what I wanted to talk about here. Yesterday,
Now, sorry, who wanted decaf? Did you want Jenna over here with the lipstick? Did you want decaf?
Excuse me, no one. We're here for breakfast. There's no no one wants.
Listen, you're feisty. I like that. I'm out of here. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. I'm gone. I'm a ghost.
So, you guys going to tell me who or what killed my dog?
Mr. Dahl, that's quite complicated. Now, I want to get
now,
into
honeys. Do you guys want to hear the breakfast specials here? Now we got a killer bacon and eggs. We got really good steak and eggs.
Garment lady, God damn it! I'm trying to have a conversation.
I'm getting pretty hungry.
I mean, do you guys? What do you guys got for Benny's? You got some good toppings out here out west?
Oh, yeah, sweetheart. It's great. Don't worry about it. It's coming right up.
The fact that I don't know who initiated the breakfast meeting, whether it was Dahl or the Men in Black, but the fact that someone was like, "You want to hit this diner?" And hey, mysterious stranger, I don't know. We can meet over at breakfast. Or that Dahl was already there for breakfast and he just slid in and was like, "Mr. Dahl, I've been watching you."
And Dahl just looks up in astonishment as this guy has a bald ass head and he's wearing makeup. He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and the server comes in, he's like, he'll have it medium with bacon. The lumberjack special, cream, 2 coffee.
Either way,
I'm pretty sure Dahl, I think Dahl, in his account, he said that he was contacted by this mysterious man and he invited him out for breakfast and then started
that's even
kind of leveling these vague, what Dahl took to be threats,
veiled threats
against him.
Invited him out for some conspiracy coffee and some fucking alien eggs here. Threaten him.
You could very well put that. And
neuralize him right in the diner.
A lot of UFO historians would put this as the origin for the Men in Black. Like this is probably the first real modern account you have of some type of person claiming they're part of some organization and leveling. Telling them, you didn't see what you thought you see. We know about this. If you talk to anybody about this, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah. More empty threats from these fucking guys, though. Like, come on. They've never done anything in any of these stories.
Did this Man in Black did he make threats against Dahl's family, or did he just say like, I know more than you
Nothing.
know?
You want to
Nothing
fucking go the
specific.
way your dog did, buddy? You better shut the fuck up.
I think it's been established that he's kind of like, he told Dahl pretty much the sentiment was, if you tell people about this, or if you go public with this knowledge, it won't be good for you, I think is pretty much the general consensus is what he said.
Like based on what we're going to hear next, like Dahl does tell his story and things don't go that great for Dahl.
Well, it's worse for other people, but
It's
funny because like whenever you hear about these guys, it makes you really think that like the movie and the song, it's all fucking MIB propaganda. They're trying to make you think that these guys are all cool and nice and the good guys dressed in black. Remember? No, they're scary and they wear lipstick and they threaten you, and it's not good. None of these guys are nice. They're pieces of shit and they're terrifying. It's not
He's like,
Will
you don't
Smith.
even know what
Tommy Lee
happened to you.
Jones is terrifying.
I know.
Maybe it's a newer, gentler MIB now after the Will Smith generation took over. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones would be a pretty scary guy.
He's badass,
to run
dude.
into.
Yeah, but he's had that little lovable, HK had a little bit of lovable side to him.
Yeah, the gruff, right? Like
Yeah. Just wants to be a mailman.
Soft heart.
And be married. Doesn't,
Now, post, Man in Black encounter, you have Dahl's story, makes it, again, they reported to the local police, it makes out to the local papers. So the story starts circulating about him and Chrisman being involved in sighting one of these UFOs. So it's not quite clear how it gets out to as far as, say, Chicago, because you get Ray Palmer, who's the editor of Amazing Stories,
who we've heard
popular science fiction
a bunch
magazine.
about Ray Palmer in the last 200 episodes. This isn't the first time I've heard the name Ray Palmer.
Yeah, that's fucking Laura Palmer's great uncle, isn't it?
No,
Little Twin Peaks for you there. No?
Yeah.
well, actually, I mean, Ray Palmer, he's the Atom.
Yeah, you're right. He is. I have the Atom #1
And
upstairs
actually,
right
Ray
now on my
Palmer,
wall.
that actual editor, like the Atom, the character, the alter ego, Ray Palmer is an homage to Ray Palmer. Like,
that's badass.
the
I didn't
Amazing
know
Stories was a popular science fiction magazine. They were known for buying some of Isaac Asimov's like early works.
Because
making
it's
them
Astonishing Tales #1, right? Where the Atom makes his first appearance. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, I have to. I just know that I knew that name, Ray Palmer. I was like, I know Ray Palmer. I've seen Legends of Tomorrow. Now, Ray Palmer had a relationship with Kenneth Arnold, who we've probably mentioned. I think we've mentioned at least once on the podcast. And Kenneth Arnold was one of the people who had one of the first really modern accounts of an encounter with a UFO while he was flying around June 24th, 1947, that very same year. And he was flying and he actually encountered a number of UFOs, and his story is actually popular itself. So,
well, yeah, his encounter through the media is how the objects got the term flying saucers.
That's right.
Right. Like flying silver discs. Like that was the standard
Right.
for a
From
while.
his account.
Yeah.
Right. That's how he described the objects that he sighted in his encounter, his aerial encounter. So the thing is, as the result of that, and he was really like the first one to kind of popularize UFO encounters. And this is kind of the beginnings. This is the birth of UFO culture. You could say that. And he became like the de facto expert on UFOs because he had a serious close encounter, what he perceived as a close encounter with these craft. So now,
So the first ufologist.
pretty much, I mean, he had this encounter, the first real believer, whatever you want to call him,
The first theorist.
he became really the first point of contact for anyone kind of interested in UFOs. So he had a relationship, like I said, with Ray Palmer, and Ray Palmer actually asked him to go and interview Chrisman. Now, Kenneth Arnold had actually been in the Pacific Northwest and investigating, like his encounter with UFOs kind of began that started his future of just becoming the first I don't know, you want to say first ufologist or whatever, but he pretty much after his encounter, he started investigating UFO reports like all over the United States. That's pretty much what he did. And Amazing Stories, Ray Palmer, like he actually paid him. He was like, hey, I'll give you $200 and, to pay for expenses. And you go out there and go talk to this guy for me, get some information, find out what he actually saw. And so Kenneth Arnold is like, yeah, sure. Why not?
Why not?
Kenneth Arnold sounds like a really amazing kind of person because it's just like he shows up in a couple of UFO stories and it's like this dude, like he's a pilot. So he's just flying his own plane around the United States.
I bet he had that dope ass like brown bomber jacket with like the fur around some aviators that he'd come and whip off.
That's how I picture him, or some type of
Kenny Arnold.
Yeah.
Big collared fur coat.
Aviator / UFO specialist.
So Arnold arrived in Tacoma, Washington, where Dahl and Chrisman were residing in late July. And he actually kind of contacted his friend, E.J. Smith, who's also in the very beginnings. He was also critical to the beginnings of UFO lore, as E.J. Smith was another person. He was actually a pilot for United Airlines, I believe. And he had an encounter while flying out of Boise, Idaho that year as well with some type of craft, what he described, seeing, these silver UFO crafts. And I think Arnold and Smith actually began their relationship when they were being interviewed by like federal agents. Like they were in Chicago, or they're in some place where they were being interviewed about their encounters. They were both there at the same time. And they kind of started up a relationship through their shared experience of like that thing. So
that's telling to me. Like imagine being someone who's seen something and you're like, this was not something from here. And you meet one other person who's saying very similar things to you. And you're like, God damn, you seen it too? You seen one too? And they're like, yes. You instantly have the connection of the two of you have seen and know something that no one else does. And you know something for sure.
Are you crazy? Because I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Should we crazy together? Let's fucking do it.
We're not alone, right? They're like, hey,
buddy. They're like the first
conspiracy bros.
The first MUFON, the first two
co-conspirators.
Yeah, I mean they're like the dynamic duo of ufology in the very beginning. Like it kind of felt like they kind of got together again over their shared experience, and they're like, you've seen something, I've seen something, we both can't explain it, nobody can really tell us what we saw, but it sounds similar.
Aliens.
So why don't we go look for more? Like, why don't we look for more people who have
they're putting together a super team. This is Magneto and Professor X. They're going to round up the other mutants.
Before we get a little more into Smith and Kenneth Arnold in Tacoma, Washington, let's take a quick beer break, refill. We'll be right back.
Yep.
There we go.
Here come the men. We're back.
Whoa.
So now you have Arnold and E.J. Smith going to interview Dahl and Chrisman.
Really quick, I think we need to add Ken Arnold to the Manly Triangle.
Kenneth Arnold?
We can.
Ken Arnold. That's a fucking.
Well, now you're making a square, though. Can we do that?
Yeah, we could be right in the middle of it, though. He could be right in the middle of it. He's probably got a toenail on the end of his penis, too. He's a fucking badass.
Yeah,
I don't want to be in that club. I hope I'm never in the club where
you have a toenail on your dick.
It's a burden, Dan, but they carry it with pride.
Yeah,
all right.
It happens when you get so much that the tip calluses. You're just so gets so much action.
Followed immediately by syphilis.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's either that or some sort of terrible STI.
So now the events of Arnold and Smith's interviews with and subsequent interviews with Smith, Dahl and Chrisman kind of covered between July 31st and August 3rd. Now there's a lot that is packed within these couple of days that happens now. And some of it's actually quite interesting, and some of them are kind of curious events that happen. So with Arnold and Smith arriving in late July, the two of them met Dahl and Chrisman, and they went out to the first thing they wanted to do was examine Dahl's boat and then conduct an interview about what Dahl saw. Now, Dahl and Chrisman did not produce pictures, which Dahl and Chrisman had both said that I believe one of them had actually taken photos of this craft. I think Dahl, when they had beached the boat, had accounted in one of his accounts, he had said that he had taken actual photos of the craft, and they couldn't produce those actual pictures of what they had taken.
Well, when I first read that, I was like, well, that's kind of suspicious. But then I also forget that this is also 1947. So, the quality of these cameras.
Dude, think about how long it takes for that little woodpecker to chisel into the fucking stone a picture of the, like fucking Flintstones.
It wasn't exactly like that, but
I've seen it on Flintstones, Dan. That was pretty much
film and stuff was
1947.
a little more readily available and stuff, but to get it developed, it's not like fucking 15-minute Walmart. You drop it off and show it back up at your 1 hour photo. Like it wasn't as easy or readily available as it is now. So the fact that they weren't able to produce photos just a little more than a month later didn't really surprise me that much.
And some accounts say that they weren't able to produce these photos because there had been damage to the actual negatives themselves. In some reports, it said that they had there were holes in the negatives that had been produced by some method, and then it's
convenient.
All right,
convenient.
And so now you have Dahl also telling Arnold that shortly after this event, his son had actually disappeared.
Disappeared? That's
right.
Vanished?
Because the next thing you would want to ask about is like, well, your son was injured. Was seriously injured, whether it was a burn or serious burn or a broken arm, depending on some accounts. Like, they'd ask about like, how's your son? Like, where's your son at? And Dahl actually told him that his son had disappeared shortly after the events.
Well, luckily he's got two fucking deckhands that can back up his story, right?
We never hear about those guys.
Oh, we don't. Oh, that's weird. Okay, never mind.
So Dahl would later go on to say that his son had actually been found waiting tables in Montana like a couple weeks after he had disappeared, but he
ran away to get on
he had
fucking
got there.
Off-Broadway fucking play somewhere
in Montana.
Big dreams. Big city dreams in Montana.
I'm sure.
With Dahl's son not being able to he just doesn't remember being there. Like that struck me as really weird because I'm like, okay, well, either like I'm just saying like if everyone in this is to be like, if you're saying like, hey, this is all fucking a hoax and these people, I'm like, it feels like you'd be able to tell like Dawson, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't remember? And like someone would not be a good actor. Do you know what I mean? Like there's already too many people involved. And for this, it strikes me as odd where I'm like, okay, well the MIB over some fucking Eggs Benny told him that if he continued to tell people and have bad stuff would happen. So maybe in my mind where I went with this, whereas I was like, maybe his son moving to Montana and stuff was like an early precursor to like MK Ultra kind of shit. Right? Where they
maybe he just didn't want to play along with his dad's bullshit, but didn't want to out his dad.
Or maybe he was traumatized by the event. He had to get out of town.
Like his dog died.
Dog got melted by molten slag from the sky. He got his arm burnt. He said, I'm out.
Did his arm
fucking
too.
Out.
Well, burnt his arm, possibly broke it. One of the deckhands may have had their arm broken.
For all we know, they could have fucking died. We didn't.
Yeah,
we don't know much
about with the way Dahl throws people over ship once he he would have wanted to be in the sea.
Wait, this guy broke his arm. Throw him over. He's gone.
Hey, put some of that slag in his pockets. Throw him in.
So now you have these kind of three leads. You're like, okay, well, they don't have the dog. They don't have the two crewmen to back them up on the story. The son has mysteriously disappeared and hasn't been found and is not there to be questioned to verify or corroborate their sighting. But what they do have and what they do produce for for Arnold is that they have a box of some of the material that they had recovered when they had seen the object. So the stuff that had dropped off and some of the stuff they had managed to collect from the ship, and then, you know, pieces of debris that they said that they found on the beach. They could produce this, and they showed it to Arnold, and Arnold, you know, understandably excited at being able to actually physically, you know, interact with a material from a UFO, got on the phone and contacted an Army Air Force intelligence officer who he's acquainted with, Lieutenant Frank M. Brown. I believe that they were acquainted with each other in the same way, or, you know, their meeting had happened at the same time that him and E.J. Smith had been doing their reports on what they had seen, or being interviewed at the same time about their sightings back in Chicago. So that was the first time they had met. So he knew Lieutenant Frank Brown, and you know, probably said, hey, if you ever see anything again, they were acquainted enough to be like, hey, I'm looking into this right now. Can you come over here and check this out? Lend us some of your expertise. So Frank Brown decided that, yeah, sure, I'll come down there. You know, they had the time and the resources to do it. So he flew up from Hamilton Field in California, along with the company of another officer, Davidson. And these two men went on to interview. They got there rather late on, is it July? In July, like rather late at night. I think they didn't really meet with both Dahl and Chrisman until like 11:30 at night or something like that.
I thought they came like they flew midnight, like, to get there.
Well, and that's interesting because it makes you think, it's like, is this something that's piqued their interest enough? Is this something that potentially was already on their radar? So like, fuck, we got to get there. We got to see this. Is this a really good case? Or is it the fact that like World War II had ended, like 2 or 3 years ago, and we're like pre-Cold War, and they're like, anything comes in like this, we need to fucking figure this shit out now, because this could be the goddamn Russians.
Exactly. So that's what I thought when I first read it. I was like, okay, so Roswell happened. So Roswell happened after this. It was in
13 days before.
So July 7th was Roswell 47. This event happened before, but they didn't come forward, right? It didn't like make the papers right away.
Right.
So by that time, like Palmer and Smith, they get there, and now Roswell has like, it's gone through the full zeitgeist, right? It's gone like, oh, recovered UFO, military recovers UFO, blah, blah, blah. And then it's already been reversed. Like, no, it's a weather balloon. So there's this like mass hysteria about what this Roswell craft was. So you get this story coupled with Palmer, who's already friends with these guys. He calls them up like, hey, listen, we might have like another Roswell here. They're like, we'll be right there. They just fly right up.
Yeah. We're already in the air.
Yeah.
We've been circling, just waiting.
You've already got the Cold War ramping up. So I'm sure, you know, the general sentiment could also be said that it was like they wanted to get out there and see if this was actually some type of Soviet technology, that this is something that the Soviets were using to either observe or, you know, for military purposes or whatever. They just wanted to see what it was. So Brown and Davidson traveled out there. They flew out there rather late at night, but they're also pretty keen to get back early August 1st. So they flew out there July 31st, like that day. And then, you know, they got there 11:30. They had their interview with the two men, Dahl and Chrisman, you know, and after pleasantries with Palmer and E.J. Smith, who they knew, and, you know, kind of conferred with them about what they had, their thoughts on what the material was. You know, they were necessary. Like, I think they were keen to actually take it back. Like, they wanted to take it back to the to their base, back to Hamilton Field, and, you know, get someone to take a look at it, get it somewhere where they could, you know, examine it more closely. But I thought they
were right away like, oh, it's fucking aluminum. It was a waste of our time. Let's get the fuck out.
Well, no, they had heard that there was.
I could see a Pepsi logo on this fucking can. This is aluminum. I'm out of here.
Hey, who here likes Budweiser? Because this is just a bunch of melted cans.
Yeah.
He's got a smelter on the boat.
Well, that's what they said. They said in the readings, it says like they kind of seemed like they knew what it was, but they didn't want to like upset Arnold because they're kind of friends. So they just kind of like took it and left.
Right. They took the box.
Hey, you guys forgot it. Oh, yeah, shit. Well, it's super important. We better get this to the lab right away.
It possibly went like that because I think they were going to leave. Like they saw what it was and they had their assumptions or from their expertise, like their experience. They're like, this is just regular aluminum. There's nothing unusual about this material or nothing struck them as being out of the ordinary. And so they were getting ready to leave to go back to Hamilton Field. And they wanted to make it back for the August 1st because that was going to be the auspicious day that the Air Force actually became the Air Force. This is like the formation of the Air Force. Originally, before this date, it had been like the Army Air Corps, which had been the people with it, like, you know, mostly the planes and all of that stuff that flew the bombers. It was all the U.S. Army. Now the Air Force was going to become its own entity that day. So they wanted to be there for the pomp and whatever the festivities that would probably follow that day. Now, when they were getting into the car, Arnold go ahead and gave him the box and was like, here, take this. So it was reported that they took the box and they said, okay, yeah, we'll have somebody, look at it. They took the box with them. By all accounts, they had loaded the box onto a B-25 bomber when they were flying out of McCord Airfield around 2:00 in the morning. And then while flying back en route to Hamilton, their B-25 caught fire and crashed, killing both those officers. The two enlisted men that were with them, that were actually piloting the craft, managed to parachute to safety, but both Davidson and Brown were killed. And this also
those
technically
two
makes
crewmen
them the
wearing
first
black?
Air Forces.
Were they wearing lipstick and black? Huh?
It is suspicious. It is suspicious that the two pilots are like, yeah, we made it up with parachutes, but these other two guys that were investigating these UFOs and stuff.
Hey, there's only 2 parachutes. What do you want from us?
Hey, couldn't help
Hey,
it. We
forget about
luckily
it.
were already wearing ours. They weren't. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Let's not ask any more questions.
So you have this crash of the B-25 bomber itself. So not only is the crash a little bit, or seems a bit suspicious, but you had 5 anonymous calls that were reported to a writer for the Tacoma Times newspaper that occurred between July 31st and August 2nd. So there's kind of like a little timeline about how the phone calls went. So the first phone call was on July 31st, 11:30 a.m. And the phone call reported that there was going to be a big meeting taking place at the Winthrop Hotel where Arnold and Smith were both staying. And it was going to be about it was going to be with some military higher ups, and they were going to meet about it was implied that they were going to meet about something pretty big. Now, on August 1st, sometime between 11 a.m. and noon, a phone call from the same caller came in and reported that a B-25 had crashed and was carrying fragments of the flying discs, which Dahl had seen. This was actually before.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
There had been a public announcement of the B-25 crash. So this is August 1st, late morning to noon, right? Right after the B-25 had crashed that evening, around 2 a.m. or that morning, early that morning. And then the next call is at August 1st, 5:30 p.m. You get a phone call that actually identifies the 2 Army officers killed in the crash, saying that it's both Davidson, Lieutenant Davidson and Brown, and that the press release will confirm what they said. This information had not made public yet to newspapers or any local newspapers or anything yet. So the caller said that they were going to be confirmed that these were the 2 officers that were killed. On August 1st, 6:30 p.m., just an hour after that, the caller calls back claiming that the plane was shot down. It was actually shot down. It didn't crash because of some technical failure. It said that it was probably shot down. And then the very next day, the same caller called in, anonymous, never gave their name, and claimed that the plane was he called to confirm that the plane had definitely been shot down by a 20 millimeter cannon, to be specific. And the caller reported that another plane near Mount Rainier had met the similar fate and also been shot down by a 20 millimeter cannon.
So they're flying on the 31st to get home for the 1st, right? Is that that's when they leave?
Well, no, they flew back like the 31st, the night of the to get back for the 1st. The morning, early morning, August 1st.
They're trying to get back for the 1st, though, for like the inauguration of the Air Force.
Right, to get back in the morning and be there for the afternoon and things like that, yeah.
And then we get all these anonymous calls seemingly right before they leave, and then pretty much right when they're flying that the plane has been shot down.
Well, it's before they even arrive.
Yes, what I mean.
So 11:30 a.m. is before the military officials even got there
to have the meeting. But when I looked at this timeline, I look at it like this: the July 31st call is fact. That happened. So whoever's calling to let them know that this is going to take place knows it's going to take place. This happens. It's confirmed later. This is fact. August 1st call is fact. So this person obviously knows before other people that this plane has crashed. The second call on August 1st is fact. 2 people were killed, and he's calling before any press release, anything is confirmed. And this is later confirmed. It is fact. The only 2 that aren't confirmed fact are the next 2, where he says this is a probable shot down, and then August 2nd calling back to say this is a definite shot down. Why start lying there? Like, to me, I'm like, you're spitting facts, you're spitting facts. Like, you're obviously, there's some concern with this call. Is like, you're in the know, you're making these phone calls. Whoever's making these calls definitely shouldn't be making these calls with whatever position they're in. So for them to just be like, all right, I actually just want to kind of perpetrate a hoax now, doesn't make sense to me. So what makes sense to me is that this plane was in fact shot down. And the reason I even give this more credence was because this was an interesting time with the Air Force just about to, become its own entity. There's a lot of jockeying for where UFOs are going to go. Where is this investigations of UFOs going to go? Where are they going to land? Which agency's in charge of it? And let's just say for a second that there is another agency and, has higher up generals or something that right now hold some information from Roswell, from this, and they do not want this information getting out to any other agency.
Why would you leave survivors? Why would there be survivors if the plane was shot down?
Yeah, but who cares about the pilots? Who cares about
because they would know that the plane was fucking shot down. They would know that it didn't just catch fire.
Maybe they jumped out beforehand.
Because they were told to?
They were told to.
How would you know the plane? How would you know the plane shot down though? Like if you're on.
How would you know that these people are going for a meeting? How would you know that the B-52 crashed before the press releases? How would you know the 2 Army officers killed before anyone else?
And we know that this is fact. We know that we have, where are we getting this information from, that these anonymous calls came in with these information?
These phone calls were reported by that Tacoma Times writer, and that it's actually part of the FBI report that was written about this.
And it came in before that these events happened, for sure, 100%.
So the only thing that kind of comes into question about the timeline, in the report, it's heavily assumed that it was probably Dahl or Chrisman who made these phone calls, because the thinking is that
I'm going to say Chrisman, based on what we know about Chrisman, and hashtag look it up. Interesting guy. And if there was someone that was potentially in the know of these things prior, it sounds like it might be Chrisman.
Yeah, but Chrisman's also the same guy that said that during World War II he was fighting like lizard people with laser guns in fucking Burma.
Fucking maybe he was.
Buddy, maybe he was.
Come on. Come on.
So again, the thinking is that because it's known that Arnold and Smith were in contact, like they heard about the crash of the B-25, like early in the morning, they knew about this.
Well, they were friends with the guys too, weren't they?
Right. And they were friends or acquaintances with them. They knew each other, and they had heard about the crash from another source. I think one of the McCord Airfield officials had actually reported the crash. And so they had called them about details. And so the timeline, actually, when they called and were getting information from them about the crash, they didn't know the names because the official couldn't give them like the official names and anything. You could just say that, yes, there was a B-25 that crashed. And what time was it? And then that's pretty much all they could give them. Did you have any? I think they pretty much, their line of questioning was, did any other B-25s fly out after 2 in the morning that night? And the answer was no. So then Smith and Arnold knew that it was a very high probability that it was both Brown and Davidson who were on that plane, and that they had perhaps died. And this information became, they became privy to this information, early in the morning, and they were with Chrisman and Dahl when they were making phone calls to the McCord Airfield. So it is possible that either two of them could have perhaps been making phone calls, could any one of them could have been the anonymous phone caller.
I don't doubt that one of them could be, but what I'm saying is I still believe what the anonymous caller had information, and I believed it had enough information from inside sources that it piqued the interest of the FBI after these incidents.
Right. You have the FBI who, after these events and after these anonymous phone calls, in association with Dahl and Chrisman, having their account of the UFO, was strange enough to, or interesting enough to warrant a special agent being dispatched to investigate the event itself, like the actual, they were going to investigate the deaths of those two officers and how it related to this interview that had taken place. So the special agent was dispatched around on the days of August 6th and 7th of that same year.
Dude, it's honestly, to me, it's so perfect because these are now two Air Force men that weren't really Air Force men because they were basically crashed the same day the Air Force. They're basically in limbo. Like, I'm like, why is the FBI handling this and not like the agency that they represented? But they were in some weird fucking limbo time between being Air Force men and Air Army Corps or whatever you said. I'm like, they were in this weird limbo. This was honestly a perfect time to just wipe everything they found, everything they brought off the map, in my opinion.
So the box.
I mean, it makes sense to me that the FBI are investigating, especially if this is all based around a fucking hoax. You lost two fucking officers' lives from this. You brought them out for no fucking reason. For some
They're not
aluminum.
FBI agents, though. You didn't lose FBI.
Doesn't
You didn't
matter.
lose Scully and Mulder.
Yeah, but you still, who do you have that's investigating these at this point in time? Right? Like, do we know? Do we have some type of Air Force fucking police or whatever at the time? Air Corps police, military police that would take lead on this? Or would it be normal for the FBI to take over?
I mean, it's not like you have NCIS or anything. So
that's
what
I'm wondering.
You'd send like the FBI because it has its, I think they would have jurisdiction because it was like between states, like
so
interstate kind of.
Yeah, it's not like you got fucking Lieutenant Daniel Caffey fucking going and looking over this.
So FBI jurisdiction takes over when a case becomes across borders, across states. Is that when FBI becomes?
That makes sense. So that's why the FBI is involved.
So because they took
even
off
if
from
it's
Washington.
military though, you don't think that, like, for me, I'm like, you don't think the military would send their own investigators?
I mean, NCIS, the Navy has their own investigative services, and I'm not sure about the other ones. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Air Force wasn't even existing at this point in time, so they wouldn't have their own.
Exactly.
No, exactly. That's why the FBI showed up. Exactly.
I'm not 100% clear. I mean, somebody could look it up and probably tell us like when if they have internal investigative services and when they were established for the military, for the U.S. military. But off the top of my head, I don't know.
What I'm saying is this is such a perfect time where, like, you know, when this is all happening, it's now the Air Force, and they're going, hey, what happened with this B-52? And the Air Force is going, well, we don't know. We just started. It's the Air Marine Corps. Like, we don't exist anymore. We're not doing shit.
Wouldn't the
you guys.
I don't think it works like that.
The FBI would have investigated this no matter what.
We lost an entire plane. We lost a B-25 bomber. Somebody's going to be responsible. I mean, I don't think it.
But who? That's the thing. It's a perfect time where they're like, who? And dude, like with the government red tape and shit, I'm sure they were like arguing about whose responsibility it was. I'm sure.
Yeah, but no matter what, the FBI would investigate, would they not?
So, I mean, the FBI investigated not necessarily, I don't think they investigated the crash. I think the crash was the crash retrieval, and cleanup was a military operation. That's known. They had blocked it off. There are reports that they didn't let in any of the civilian law enforcement agencies. Like I think some of the local sheriffs were denied entry into the airplane crash area. But I mean, could also
not letting Roscoe Pico Coltrane come in there and fucking muddy up your crime scene.
It was to some accounts, like it was a pretty wide crash field. Like the way the plane went down, from investigations later, reports said that there was a fire, or a failure in one of the exhaust pipes on one of the wings, on one of the wing mounted rotors. Yeah. And then it just pretty much burned up the engine like super fast, got insanely hot, and then ripped off
it was hit by a fucking 20 millimeter cannon and exploded the wing on the fucking.
People lived though.
Yeah, well, here the official story of the investigation was that Davidson and Brown, so they're the pilots, right? And the other two personnel in the back, the wing, the engine's on fire or the exhaust on fire, so they can keep the plane at altitude and controlled for a bit. So they tell them, like, hey, strap on your parachutes. Like, this is like, prognosis negative here. Like, this is going to go down. Some of the accounts I read, like, they actually kicked one of the guys out of the plane. Like, pull the ripcord as you fall, and like kicked him out. And as the pilots tried to like control the plane, the actual wing broke off.
Right,
making it so the pilots could not escape the plane because the wing hit the tail fin and sent the plane into a downward, like, uncontrollable spiral, and that's why two lived.
So like
and
the wing like sheared off,
yeah,
after becoming so hot and just like hit the side and then just made it been into an uncontrollable spin, and then it was like they couldn't get out. Like they would just be pinned inside the craft at that point.
But if these guys were in on it, they totally could have fucking just killed these guys and then fucking popped out and been like, oh, the plane crashed, caught fire. You know what I mean? They didn't have to shoot it with a fucking cannon to kill these people.
Yeah, but what
and cover up the evidence.
That's what I'm saying though. Say they did hypothetical, it was shot by a cannon. It clipped the wing, it lit it on fire. Like, you don't hear the cannon fire when you're in the plane, because if they're shooting from the ground or whatever, you're not going to hear the pop of the shell. They get a lucky shot. It hits the wing.
Somebody would.
No, I'm just saying,
like, hypothetical. That's the thing about the 20 millimeter cannon. It's like, okay, so you're going to down it in like one shot.
I'm just saying
that would be difficult, I think, from anyone. Like a single 20 millimeter shell. I mean, multiple shots maybe, but would you take the risk of your 20 millimeter cannon being fired off and being heard by people in that area? Like, this is a remote area, so maybe, yeah, but you'd have to drive the 20 millimeter cannon out into that area, and then, I mean, logistically, it sounds pretty difficult. Like, the area that it crashed in is mostly inaccessible. Even the local sheriff said that they had trouble, like, getting people up there, to help with, like, the crash effort.
Sounds like they had a pretty good plan.
Efforts.
Or they get a couple fucking parachute ninjas that come up behind these dudes while they're fucking flying the plane, slit their throats, and jump out the plane.
Yeah,
Problem solved. Bingo, bango, bongo. Yeah, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Super,
no cannons,
black
no nothing.
men, flight suits. They came in from the side, and or flying laser guided sharks.
No, that's stupid. We're gonna shoot them with a fucking cannon. Gonna make our point.
Well, cannon's accessible. Laser guided air sharks are not.
You've never seen sky sharks.
Yeah, you're right. Forget about my hypothetical. You're right. You're all right. It's all good. Continue on.
I liked your hypothetical.
I didn't get a chance to finish it, but it's all good.
Finish it.
I'm saying hypothetical, if a cannon hit the wing, the pilots did not know what happened to the wing. It's on fire. The plane's not falling out of the sky right then, right? So then you're like, oh, we're on fire. I don't know what's fucking happened. The fucking siren's going. They go back, put on your parachutes. They kick them out of the plane. They try and recover. The wing shears off, hits the tail fin. Down they go. The rest is history. Just saying.
I like it.
Hypothetical, if a cannon was used or another plane or maybe it was one of these goddamn UFOs didn't want you to find what they took on board the plane, they shot it down. God damn, who knows?
I lean heavily. I like your theory and I subscribe to it because the anonymous caller was right 3 of 5. We cannot confirm the 4th and 5th call, but why start making up stuff then? You're just making stuff up out of the blue. Everything else you would have to have a no. Right? Like they identified the 2 Army officers killed. Yes, it could be Dahl or Chrisman and they would know, but that would have to be a 50% guess. Like they're like, hopefully it's the 2 that we met that died and we're right. Right? Like they would have to make a guess because it didn't have to be those 2 that survived. It could have.
Maybe they weren't started investigating them earlier. Like got a contact, be like, we need to talk to you. The 2 people you met with fucking died in a plane crash. So we need to figure out what the fucking conversation was about. And that's how they knew that those 2 guys died.
Maybe.
Right? That's why they're in the know.
I mean, they were in the room, according to the FBI reports and like the deposition by E.J. Smith and Arnold would go on to give the FBI and like the local investigation offices, like they gave depositions saying that those 2 men were in the room when they were calling about information on Brown and on Lieutenant Brown and Davidson. So the thing is like, because I think Lieutenant Brown had made it clear that he was going to go and he wanted to look into this, but the higher ups, like he got the idea, or he felt like his higher ups had kind of communicated their feelings towards it that it was nothing burger. Like they're like, we don't really are worried about it. So, you guys can come on back and don't worry about it. But he left the door open for Arnold saying, if you find out more, hey, stay a little longer with this guy, talk to this guy, see if you can get a bit more, or get a clear picture of what they saw or what they didn't see, and we'll get back in contact, and then and we'll figure out where to go from there. I think that was the main idea of what the main feeling that Arnold got. So when they called the officials at McCord Airfield about this, in the morning, and they asked them, like, did any other B-25 bombers fly out at 2 a.m? And they said no. And they heard about the crash. Then they're like, well, it's probably them.
Probably. Right.
I mean,
again, it's a guess.
And they don't know who the other 2 guys are.
Right. So, they know that those 2 guys were there, and then that's pretty much it. So I don't know. But that's pretty much what set off the FBI investigation on August 6th and 7th, where an FBI agent was sent to interview Dahl and Chrisman about, what their connection was with this. Cause in any good investigator, you'd want to check out all the connections. And this is obviously, like, to them right now, this seems like, the death of these two Army officers is pretty much, you could tie it directly to Dahl and Chrisman. You could be like, you guys brought them out here, whether or not your report is, even if the report is factual or whatever, you could be like, you guys brought them out here. Your story better be real or something like that. It's pretty much, it's kind of being like, did you bring them out here on false pretenses? Is that why you brought them out here? And now 2 men are dead. Like I think that's kind of,
but at the same time, they didn't do that plane. If there was a mechanical issue, it's going to go down on the next flight regardless. You know what I mean?
Well, they probably didn't know that at the time, right?
They wouldn't have been on that plane.
Someone would have been on the plane.
No, nobody would have been on that plane though.
Someone would have been on that plane on the next flight.
Eventually it would have flown the next time and it would have crashed. If it was
a mechanical issue,
rush, they didn't do a proper plane check.
They went specifically to investigate Dahl and Chrisman. I'm just saying that's the case could be made that Dahl and Chrisman are in some capacity responsible for the deaths of the 2 Army officers.
Well, even just that, those are the last 2 people to fucking see them.
Right.
Other than the crew, right?
But they obviously weren't.
I've seen the first 48. I know how they do it.
They weren't responsible in the end because there was no charges laid against them.
Yeah. They weren't responsible
because they're too busy looking for that cannon.
That is circumstantial. To say that they would go because I get Zell's point. Like, it didn't matter if that plane, if this was truly a mechanical issue, it didn't matter that it was the next flight that plane did was going to have an issue.
Still got to investigate it.
This is coincidence. Yes.
You still got to investigate it.
Yeah, but I'm saying they weren't charged with anything. Right?
Well, yeah.
No, they weren't charged with anything because they said that they weren't necessarily responsible for it because they believed that what they brought them out there wasn't like intentional. They're like, you didn't bring them out here because in order to kill them or, in some type of spy. Like, in worst case, they believed them to be some type of like Soviet spies. Like, I think that's what what was the underlying suspicion, which was like everything at that time, which is like everybody's a Soviet spy.
At the same time, it was actually Palmer who called them. So it was Palmer was equally as responsible as the 2 people who made the story.
Right. So now the agent that they sent there said that one of the interesting parts of the story is that he went to Dahl's home and, asking him about what he saw on that day, kind of he wanted Dahl to tell him the story of what he had told Palmer, or he had told Arnold and Smith, like what exactly had you told them? What did you tell the Army officers? Tell me everything that you told me. And so it's related in the FBI report that Dahl kind of pulled him aside into the kitchen of his home and kind of started relating to him in hushed tones about what was going on. And then like mid story, Dahl's wife busts in and is like, stop fucking telling these dumb stories. She told him, he's like, stop making up stories about what you saw. You didn't see anything. Question. It's just some fantasy that you made up. And
here's my question. Where did she have breakfast that morning? Was she threatened over an Eggs Benny by the Men in Black? You don't fucking know.
Well, you know what though? Like, to be honest, like hearing that on the face of it is like, if you're just like, you read that part, you skimmed, you didn't look into anything else, I would be like, well, that's concerning that the wife's getting mad at him. But then when you also looked at like, we didn't talk about that. His business during this time had also been vandalized, right? His son had gone missing. His dog had died, like, and
melted.
Right. And he had gone for breakfast with this mystery man who was going to say, hey, shut your fucking mouth or things are going to take a turn for the worse. And they started to, and he's still talking. And his wife's probably fucking she's like, listen. Enough! It's made up. We're not talking about it. It's done. We're done. It's all make believe.
2 people fucking died because of this shit. Stop.
Right? Exactly. Right. So it's like, to me, I'm like, when we're looking at this, I go like, this isn't that surprising that she would have this kind of reaction because maybe she's actually taking the threat seriously.
And immediately after this, Dahl would go on, like right after that, he would recant on his story to the special agent. He said, yeah, I made it up. He went on to kind of admit that he had made this story up or, it was some type of hoax perpetrated by him and Chrisman. And that's not the first time that he had done that. Like there are other accounts that him and Chrisman like have been approached in investigations about this. And they said that they had never said anything about, they came out saying like, we didn't say anything about UFOs. We had initially contacted an acquaintance in Chicago about analyzing some metal that we had found, but we had never said anything about UFOs. We don't know where the UFO story came from. And then we just sent that but we said something, the person in Chicago that they were acquainted with was it was another science fiction publication. And they said that they would have this stuff analyzed and they would say that like Dahl or Chrisman would relate that the guy kind of wanted it to be material from a flying disc. So we said it was a flying disc. So it's not the first time that he would kind of go back on his story. But he would also go back and say, no, what I saw was real. And I said that. So he kind of like, there are parts of the story where Dahl Dahl kind of flip flops between going back in his story, saying, you know, at one point he says, like, you know what, if anybody asks me about it, I'll lie and I'll tell them I never saw anything and I'm the biggest liar ever, or I'll tell them I'm the biggest liar ever. And just, I'm tired of all this. I'm sick of it. Like at one point in the story, he just gets, you know, miffed off that he just, I'm tired of all this shit that happened. So, you know, I mean, and then pretty much that's where it ends. Now you have a couple of investigations that went into looking in for the, you know, on the physical evidence side. There are those who believe that that material that was on the B-25 aircraft with both Davidson and Brown could have possibly been recovered or, you know, survived the crash. So you have a number of things. I know, like for the show we watched, there's a episode of UFO Hunters. They went to the crash site trying to look for, you know, pieces of the airplane itself, which they actually found some pieces. Some parts had survived the, you know, being out there for that long. And then there are some, also some publications and some websites that said they went out there and found pieces of what they thought was the material. I don't know how you'd come to that conclusion. Like if you went out into like a giant field and you're just like, this is the stuff that was the part, or, you know, this is the material that they were carrying that was reported to be from flying discs. Like, how do you know it's that and not just some random piece of metal that's out there?
Did they ever drag the lake or anything like that?
Which lake? Oh, the
Puget Sound,
like the bay.
Puget Sound,
Puget Sound.
Puget Sound.
I think that would be a little bit.
Well, because there was pieces that hit it, right? That fizzled. They go down there.
That went down there. I know in the UFO Hunters episode, they
went
had
diving.
one of their members go down there and dive down into the area that they believed it had been reported that had happened.
Yeah, but there's no way.
They found some pieces of rocks and stuff, but that was it.
Dude, if there was slag that fell in the ocean and, you know, it cooled and it hit the bottom 70 years ago, all the tides and the silt and stuff, it's gone.
Well, I'm talking about what about right after it happened?
No, nothing after it happened.
No large scale operations were done to recover anything or anything like that to general knowledge or anything that came up in my research. It was just mostly like people took it as a story. And then rather quickly within a couple of months, it was kind of the general consensus was that it was a hoax.
As with most of these cases of the day, everyone thinks just a hoax.
Well, they had so many of them this time too, and they're all brand new.
Yeah.
Or this is the first time you're hearing about these flying saucers.
This is the first year of the flying saucer craze.
There's tons of them.
No one knows
It's almost
what
like
to
a mass
believe.
hysteria for fucking saucers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No one knows what to believe. There's different accounts, different stories, different timelines. They didn't really start looking into these types of cases for years. Like the initial investigation happened, the initial reports, like newspapers and stuff, Tacoma. But no one really got into them till years later, like really started digging in. So it gets hard. You know, the longer you wait, the harder it is. So,
all right, let's go. Let's get into final thoughts. Zell, why don't you kick us off?
I like the case as it is, as far as the timeline goes. The first sighting of these. I mean, these are a little different. They're not really flying saucers. They're like flying donuts, right? They got like the hollow center.
Yeah.
But I can't make a final conclusion because the pictures they said they took have never surfaced. You've never seen the pictures, right?
Yeah.
And what they found on the beach was like the silvery metal. It kind of looked like aluminum, but they never found the slag. So what they put in the box and gave to the Air Force pilots on the on the airplane was not really the stuff that hit their boat. It didn't seem like. It seemed like a different stuff. It wasn't like the black volcanic rock looking slag. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense why, when this first happened, like where's the financial benefit of perpetrating a hoax, you know? Like why now? There's no, did they write a book about it? Did they go on like a national TV tour? Like, you know what I mean? Like why then? Like this is right at the start. So I don't know, there's a couple missing pieces for me to make a full conclusion. I do not believe, but I'm right in the middle. I'm not really sure on this one. It's a tough one.
Dan, let's go diagonally down to you.
there's a lot of information about this case, like in the FBI reports and stuff. I mean, it was a pretty thorough investigation by all accounts. And they went through and talked about a lot of the kind of addressed a lot of the points. Like, again, you have actual physical material that something dropped or they claimed dropped out. And that's kind of like the big thing for me. I'm like, what was that metal? After Davidson and Brown had left, I think Smith and Arnold had stayed for a couple more days. They got in contact with like another official from one of the airfields to come down there and kind of take a look at some of the material, and like one of the local airfields. And he took them to a smelting plant, a smelter that was working in the area. And he took that material and he showed them like slag from that smelter. And from the FBI report, they reported that they said it looked remarkably similar. So
yeah, well, molten metal will do that, but like you gotta analyze it, right? Like, yeah, you might be like, yeah, this looks like the same kind of molten metal, but it may not be the same kind of metal,
right? So, I mean, a couple of the Army officials who had worked with aircraft materials, their Army, I'm sure like they looked at it, they didn't see anything remarkable about it, didn't seem really interested in it. There's some. In the UFO Hunters episode, they heavily imply that perhaps like this thing could have been magnetic, and that was maybe a cause for it could have contributed to the fire that downed the plane, and so it's like that had triggered something. But also it's like, well, if this molten metal exhibited some kind of remarkable property or something, or it dropped off of a UFO craft as some kind of advanced material, I think it would have been apparent like right from the start. Like it would have been like, they've been like, this is something we've never seen before. This is not aluminum. It's not some type of steel. It's not type of whatever. I think it would have been like, you can touch it, feel it, look at it. There's certain, properties of metals that you can be like, okay, this is definitely not something we've seen before. So that's kind of like that. And then there's just a bunch of stuff that the story, again, like I said, there's so many accounts and this story has changed a bit, or there's bits of inconsistencies between each of the accounts and as it's aged. So for me, it's like, well, it could have been, I want to know what he saw, if he did see something, because it sounds pretty interesting. Like if it was something that some UFO craft that jettisoned its raw material, maybe extracted, I don't know, it could have been like Puget Sound has been known to have like deposits of platinum and gold. Maybe they were extracting that and then they were just ejecting the slag and then refining it into monoatomic gold to power their warp engines so they can jet off into the universe. Like maybe,
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Cool. That's what I'm talking about.
Cool. I can do that.
All right, Andrew, what do you think?
This was really fun. This is really cool. I enjoyed it. There's so much to it. I'll just raise a few of my concerns. Like, big thing again with Zell brought it up, the pictures. Like, they got pictures of the crafts. Also, don't you think they would take pictures of the damage done to their boat? You know what I mean? To just prove that fucking happened to begin with. The fact that we have two people that also witnesses this, that we don't know their names, we don't know where they are or what happened to them. We have the son who has some sort of post-traumatic amnesia from this event, or potentially neuralized, like Braden said, or MK Ultra. And if they went as far to neuralize or, MK Ultra, his son, why wouldn't they just do it to Dahl as well? So I don't really buy that too much either. I do believe that they saw something, but I think stuff started to go south is when they involved Kreisman. And Kreisman, what did Kreisman do as soon as he found the story out? Right away, he attached himself to the story, being like, oh, I went there and just magically saw a saucer too. So he instantly puts himself in the story, and then he reaches out to his buddy Ray Palmer, who runs a fucking amazing stories, magazine, to try and turn this into some bigger, more elaborate story. And then, like Zell brought up, well, I don't understand, why didn't these guys make money or try to pursue this anymore? And I think the reason why they didn't is because two people fucking died.
Mm.
And I think that's what fucking derailed things for them. They're like, holy fuck, things are real. This things went seriously south. This is not the cool, lucrative story that we tried to turn it into, and we need to shelf it. And that's kind of where I am. I think it's a really cool story, and I do think Dahl believes he saw something. And as far as his son goes, potentially had some type of post-traumatic amnesia, but usually that's usually never permanent in very, very rare cases, maybe lasts a couple days, a couple weeks. And the longest I've ever heard of it lasting is maybe months. So I got a tough time buying into it. And it's just too bad because this happened in 1947, right? The best information we got was from fucking 1947, and we're analyzing it now, and it's had the telephone game and had a bunch of different people's hands in it. And it was fun. It was a cool story.
It's a good one.
I'm glad that we got the MIB from it, but I can't buy into this one.
My final thoughts. I think they did see something. I think Slag did kill the dog. I don't see a reason. If the dog didn't die, that means they killed it. And I find that story even hard. I find that hard to believe. Like, why lie about you just murdered your dog for the story? I believe the story. I believe they found something. What they saw, I don't know if it was 100% alien. What I think it may be, I think it was human piloted crafts of us either piloting some of the objects that we found, similar to the Roswell or from Roswell, because we have accounts of Bob Lazar saying we've dug a couple of these things up, or maybe this is us re-engineering some of these things, and these are the first kind of flights with these things and them crashing. And this is top secret. This is agencies that we don't even know the names to. Like, we're talking black book things. And I believe that the two men that were killed in the aircraft, they actually had parts of this recovered. And I believe that airplane was taken down to cover up whatever agency had this technology, because they didn't want any other. Like, these agencies, they do compete. And I believe this was to keep whatever black book operation they have off the map and continue to work in the shadows.
I like that.
The anonymous calls, 3 of 5 are factually true. And yes, I agree. Like Dan said, it could be Chrisman and Dull. But on the third one being correct, they're guessing. It's a guessing game that those are the 2 that died. There's 4 people on that plane. They guessed 2, and it happens to be the right 2. Like, right? Yes. But I'm still leaning that those are 3 factual things. So why start lying on the next 2 of this anonymous call? I believe this plane was shot down with the 20 millimeter cannon, like reported. Similar to what Zell said, I believe maybe the pilots weren't in the know. This plane was hit. That's why you have the large debris field, is because it was hit by something. This explosion took out the engine. Possibly not a wing right away, spreading debris all over the place. I think this is one of the first real government cover-ups, is what I think, looking at this. You have people going, intimidating, people who seemingly are in the know. And it's perfect because it's so long ago, and there's this window of opportunity where you're even between agencies. Like, the amount of disorganization in this specific period, when the Air Force is becoming their own entity, I can only imagine it's a logistical nightmare for everyone involved. And I believe that's why this was done at this point, is because some people saw an opportunity to make it work for them. That's what I believe. Those are my final thoughts.
There you go. It's a fun case. One of the OGs of ufology. It's fun to get into the old ones sometimes. We haven't done the old ones probably since Roswell, I don't think. Something that old, at least. Fun. If nothing else.
Good case.
Good case.
We're going to do something a little different here. If those of you who have been on our Facebook and Instagram, we've been posting a lot of recent UFO videos, some compelling ones. So right now, we don't even have a segment name for this yet.
This is just sprung on us. This is brand new something we're going to do. If you're not watching the live stream, you don't have to sign up for Patreon, but if you want to, you can watch it. We're going to post these on Instagram and YouTube. Post them on the socials.
The videos are already on our socials, but this clip from this point on will be on our socials of us reviewing these clips.
So we're going to start with the blue light in the sky one, Braden.
So this is, this video. I'll give a quick rundown before we play the video. This is August 3rd, 2021, over the skies of Brooklyn, New York, USA. A giant UFO was recorded emitting a blue light. After a few moments, the UFO appeared to eject smaller UFOs. The group of friends filming the event claimed that their cell phones turned off mid-recording for no reason, and they were unable to turn them off until after the UFO had vanished. And this is MUFON case number 117221. Cue the video.
Here we go.
So we see what appears to be a large light in the sky.
Oh, shot off a
Pulsing.
fucking UFO.
One light shoots out,
Two lights.
and now a second light, slower than the first one ejected, pops out. And the video inexplicably stops 17 seconds into the video. What's everyone's thoughts on that?
I've seen batteries not included. That's what this is.
Well, what could make those lights?
Besides computer effects, I have no idea. So is it a UFO shooting out other UFOs that are also glowing? Is that what they're saying?
All they say is that they see this blue light and it appears to eject those two other smaller lights that you see in the video. I'm at a loss. The first one ejects obviously faster than the second one. Second one kind of comes out a little slower, but I'm at a loss of what that could be. There's always this thing that this is a fake video. The one thing I'll say is if you listen to the audio of this video, not to say that I wouldn't be more surprised, but I would probably be more surprised if you heard me seeing these things live. It does seem underwhelming for the people who are recording.
I mean, it's pretty cool. The one thing that, I'm not saying that it's not indicative of any alien craft that's been described, but the movement, it's really slow. It comes out the kind of just in a straight line type thing, where it's none of that really cool sporadic movement or those sharp lines or anything like that we've seen described, right? It's just a slow little fucking trickle out.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just making it very, hey, we're here and we're not worried if you see us. It's cool.
The funny thing about this video is that when I reviewed it and I looked at it, I kind of dug into it a little bit, and that this video, there's another similar video to this one that was posted or appeared, popped up on the internet, or posted somewhere in a couple forums, that it was the exact same thing, but a couple days earlier and from a different place within it was still in New York. It was still in New York. There's one from it was on Manhattan or something like that. And they filmed the exact same thing and it looks almost exactly the same.
Oh, cool.
Not the light is the same brightness. It has the ejecting of at least one or two smaller lights.
It's a different video, but appears the same.
Right. In a different location. So it's right over Midtown Manhattan. So, I would expect there to be more videos because the video is kind of taken from across the water. It's over Manhattan. And I'm okay, it's right there. It's right next to a skyscraper or two. Right. And you would expect to be, I know people would want to say that, nobody's ever looking up anymore. Everybody's looking at their phones, but I'm those lights are pretty bright. And if you saw one of those, it would be casting, it's bright enough to be casting shadows. If it's that close, it's that brilliant, it's that bright in the video that in the video that we're looking at now, it is remarkably brilliant, and it would be probably bright enough to cast its own shadows.
So what are your thoughts? So. Sorry, Dan, not to interrupt you. Sorry.
Did I not already say it?
Oh, did you? Let's go around. Let's go around the horn. Real or fake?
Real or fake?
Yeah.
Real. That's a real fucking video right there, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real video.
I just don't know what it is. It's real to me.
It's a real video.
I personally, I don't like this video. I think it's a fake only because of the audio on it. The reactions, I just feel that if you were seeing something this magnificent as the video goes, I think you would have more reaction than you see in the video. The reaction, and I hate to judge it from the reaction, but That's honestly what stands out to me is like the lackluster reaction to this. If it's truly what you're seeing, because everyone knows filming a camera is going to be less astounding than what your eye sees. Let's cue up the next video, Zell.
All right, this one's a UFO, a black saucer UFO against the clouds. It looks like pretty much.
Zell, you can just hit play because I will read the description. There's no audio to this video, so you can just hit play right now. This object was spotted in the skies above Manhattan, New York. This was August 7th, 2021. It's MUFON case 117196. The submitter explained that the audio was removed because they were freaking out and they cussed while recording this thing. The submitter says, "I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It really freaked me out." And right at the end of this video, you see this object, this seemingly black speck hovering, looks kind of similar to a Tic Tac, and it is going to inexplicably fade away from view as if it's taking off into the clouds. That's probably going to happen right now. There it goes.
Oh, it does fucking go. That's for sure.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
So you said this was another one in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Probably be about the same thing. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I don't know. It looks, it looks like a UFO hanging out. It looks like aliens are really interested in New York. Maybe they come for the thick sliced pizza. I don't know.
There's Broadway.
There's something.
Oh yeah, they could be here for Broadway. There's some good musicals.
For my review of it, there's something about when it's leaving that just doesn't look right on the video. Like as it's fading out, shooting into the stars, it doesn't look like it's leaving and going far away rather than it's getting smaller. And to me, that shows maybe some like editing of the image.
Kind of like fades out.
That's a hard one. It's a hard one for me because everything when I look at it looks good, but when it's leaving, I question as it seems to be disappearing.
That's just the time dilation.
Maybe.
Don't know.
Zell, what do you think?
I mean, it's weird that you're filming from below and it's a black blur against the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean
black holes bend light around them, so it's like it absorbs the light. Its gravity field that it's generating is absorbing, bending or absorbing the light in it. That's what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. Andrew?
I mean, if I took that video, you'd have to take out the audio too. I'd be shitting my pants. Look at that thing. Looks just like a fucking flying saucer, man.
Who edits out the audio and they're like, I cussed in it? Like, okay.
Shit.
Must have been like if they cussed, it must have been like some like really bad like racial slurs or something. Like, I don't know why you would edit it out. No one would care.
Dan goes straight to the racism again. God,
I'm just saying, it's like that's the only reason you would edit it, or you would take out the audio if you were saying some really like racist shit. Like, I don't know who else would like edit out cussing. Like,
he's a very strict religious person, and they said cunt, and they went, hell no, that can never.
Darn it! Look at that thing up there.
Yeah. Jesus.
Did you use the Lord's name in vain? Cut it.
All right. Is that all you want to do? You want to just do two then?
Let's do two for tonight. Yeah, we're going pretty fucking long here. So. All right. Let's give out a theorite of the week.
We got a special one.
Special one.
Got a special.
Well deserved.
Well deserved. I'm pretty sure. What is it? Her 20th birthday? 21st?
Yeah, 21st. Let's give her 20.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, she's got to be older than her son, so I think let's give her how old her son. Older, whatever her son is, give her an appropriate age above him.
26.
Sure.
We want to wish a very special 26th birthday to our theorist of the week, Jennifer Swope, Pod Mom.
The Pod Mom, unofficial Pod Mom.
The official Pod Mom.
The official Pod Mom, let's face it.
Come on.
Always,
we love you.
Always active
Cheers,
on
Jennifer.
the Discord. Always a valued
Hope you had a happy
member.
birthday.
Hope you had a great birthday.
Spoiled.
Birthday today. Cheers. Theorite of the week, Jennifer Swope. We appreciate your support to the community. All right. You're not supporting the show. Oh, that's not the right button. There we go. Hey.
It's a little rusty. It's all
A little
good,
rusty.
boys.
You know, you take one
It's all
week
come
off.
back.
You
It's
take
coming
one
back.
week off, and then that's
Boys
what happens.
lost some steam.
If you're not supporting the show, you want access, early access to case files, the live stream, the Discord, all the bonus stuff, head over to patreon.com/Alien Theorist Podcast or find the link in the podcast description. This week's newest supporters: Dylan. Fuck, why do you gotta do this to me, you know? Dylan Killed. Dylan Killed. There you go. El Taco Truck. Hey, I used to have a taco truck. Got stolen one time. Went to Afghanistan. Tristan, Canada. Daniel Frazier went up. Full year pledge. Elm Riverton. Captain Specificity? Sure. Stevie Mack. Keenan Simpson. John Brooks. Garrett Whittle. Ryan Steele. Todd Dean. Tyler Tollefson. Iva Foster. That's a great name. Jimbo Slice. Eric with a full year pledge. NZ Skunky Buds. Adam Linder. Ramirez went up to a $10 pledge. Kelly Hendricks is back. I recognize that name. Ryan Morgan upped it to a full year pledge. And last but not least, Tracy Fraser. Thank you very much for supporting the show.
And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
See you in after hours.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car-selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.